welcome to the stage, Luke Kitchell! Let's go. How are we doing, legends? Thanks for coming out. I appreciate it. Oh, hell yeah. Love the bum bag, sir. That's good. Yeah. How come? Is it, you know, it's like a fashion thing?
Fuck it, I'm a drug dealer.
You know this is being filmed in 4K. Fuck it, I'm a drug dealer. I did not imply that at all. I was just like, oh, cool, bum bag. And you're like, oh, God, he's onto me. No one was suspecting. Okay, maybe a few of us were suspecting it. But I wasn't going to say it. You're a plumber. Oh, okay. Smart. It's like if the cops are watching, I plumb. Oh, that's incredible. Well, thanks very much for coming. Are you, I'm assuming, couple?
My wife.
Your wife? Oh, congratulations. She must be so proud. So you're a plumber? Yep. And what do you do?
Work in dental.
Work in dental. Great. Oh, like you the dentist, or like the person that like does the suck? No, that's not what it's called. He's like, no, trust me, man. She does do good suck. Anyway, how are we all doing? What a start. I should have said I'm Luke, yeah, you know what I realised recently? I look like a Christian youth group leader. That's my energy. Just like, g'day kids, welcome to summer camp. Your parents don't love you, but Jesus does. It's my vibe. I got a boring head as well. Like, there's no notable features about this. I'm a human Corolla, you know? Everyone's got one, but no one's impressed by it. Like, every time I see a Crime Stoppers ad at a train station, I'm like, fuck, that's me, dude. It's got to the point where my head is so boring that strangers feel the need to come up to me just to tell me other random white dudes that they think I look like. And when I say strangers, exclusively drunk girls. I don't know where you get your confidence from, ladies, but it is inspiring. Every weekend I'll be like out at a bar or something, girls are just like, excuse me, stop. And I'm like, oh, yes. And every time they always say the same thing. They're always like, you look like the guy Joe from the Netflix show You. Now, for those who are not familiar with this show, neither was I. I quickly Googled it. Turns out this Joe character, quite a good-looking unit. I was stoked. So I start bragging about it to everyone I've ever met. I'm telling my friends, my family, I was like, spread the word, this is great for me. I did a little more research. For those who don't know, I later found out the Netflix show You is about a guy that stalks and kills women. Quite aggressively. This man is a sexual predator, and the whole week I've been like, me, him, same guy. Brutal. And girls love this show, and they love the guy Joe in it, and I cannot reiterate enough, this man is a creep, a stalker, and a murderer. And every girl's like, yeah, but he's mysterious, you know? I was talking to this one girl, she's like, at least he cares. Like, every girl's like, I can change him, trust me. And happened again the next weekend. I went out, sure enough, this girl, she was like, you look like that guy Joe from the show You. But this time I was going to say something, but then her friend butted in. She was like, no, he doesn't. And I was like, thank you, he's a creep. And she was like, yeah, all good. You look way more like Ted Bundy. I was like, oh, great. So it's not up for debate if I look like a sexual predator or not, but what is up for debate is which one. If I grew a mustache and then left the house, that'd be a fucking hate crime. And I remember when the Bundy documentary came out a few years ago, people at the time did tell me that I resembled the serial killer Ted Bundy. And I don't know if you know this, but that's not good press. But my girlfriend found out about this, and we were watching it together, like the documentary on the couch, and she's looking at Ted and then back at me. And then back at Ted, and she's like, you know what? I see it. And she said this sentence out loud, and it haunts me to this day. She's like, yeah. You guys kind of have a similar vibe. And I was like, no. He abducts and kills people and has a monobrow, okay? I would never, ever have a monobrow. That is disgusting. Ted Bundy's down to fuck. I'm down to pluck. Thank you very much. Now, I'm 26 years old, and I feel like some things that used to excite me when I was younger just don't excite me as much anymore. But like some things that never did excite me, oh my. Okay, I don't know if this is relatable. I'm just going to say it. Okay. Does anyone else, when they go to the supermarket and see something half-priced, just get a throbbing erection? Sorry, ladies, need a towel? Because I have a serious problem. There is truly nothing more arousing in this world to me than when you walk into any Australian supermarket and you make eye contact with those half-price crumpets on the way in. And don't you even think about looking at me like you don't know the exact crumpets I'm referring to. Those golden circle baddies, dude. Oh. Better than titties, I'm telling you. I treat them like avocados. I'm like, oh yeah, which one am I gonna get? I start motorboating the crumpets. You guys are gonna walk into Woolies tomorrow and there's gonna be holes in all the crumpets. You know? You're like, oh, Lukey's come through. Well, he's come on them, actually. Now they're crumpets. All right. I only say that because I know most of you probably have to go shopping at one point in the next week, and you're going to be walking through the supermarket now, and you're going to be like, crumpets. And that brings me joy, and I can't explain why. I'm down bad for any bargain. It's awful. It's bad. I can't walk into an Aldi unless I'm wearing a chastity belt. I gotta keep that shit locked up. Some people jerk off to porn. Aldi special buyers catalogue. Man, there's nothing better than busting a nut over a half-price kayak. I can tell you that much. I feel like I've lost a few of you along the way here. You guys I like crumpets, but I don't jerk off to kayaks. It's bad. I realised this about myself because one day my girlfriend, she came into our room. She's just dressed in brand new lingerie, looking fine as hell. And I was like, that's cool. And then the next day she came home from the supermarket and she's like, Luke, I got mouthwash 2 for 1. And I was like, oh, fuck. I just took my shirt off, slammed the bedroom door shut, and I was like, did you use our Everyday Rewards card? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, does that mean what I think it means? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, does that mean that in 3 shops we're going to get $10 off our next shop? She looks me in the eye, she's like, 2 shops. And I was like, oh, you're going to need that mouthwash. I'm so sorry. Not to you, my mum's going to watch this, so that sucks. Man, I don't know. Girls, any girls in? Oh, yeah. Hey, girls, why do you all pretend to be friends? They're like, fuck, he knows. We all know. You're incredible at it, by the way. Congratulations. I figured it out. Girls are so good at complimenting each other. I don't know if you've witnessed this on a night out. Now, sometimes they're genuine. Other times, I don't know. Now, I'm not saying they're all fake. At the start of the night at Prees, very genuine. You've heard it before. Oh, my God, I love your hair, love your dress, love your shoes. You're perfect, right? That's amazing. That girl goes out feeling great about herself. The problem is girls will compliment each other at the end of the night out. No one has ever, and I mean ever, looked good at the end of the night out. Their best friend's always like slumped up against a brick wall in an alleyway. She's got nugget sauce dripping from her chin, holding her heel. She's pissing in her own vomit. They always have like 3 girlfriends around them like, you're a queen, Belinda, you're a goddamn queen. And I'm just over the other side of the road like, really? Yeah, she's a queen, piss off, Luke. And I'm like, no, you're right, she does look deceased. one's a newer punchline. I needed an end for that joke, and I was like, oh, cheers, Liz. I'm kidding. I was like, cheers, Liz. Now, that's lovely. The girls care, right? And they pretend to be friends. It's great. I wish guys did the same. Guys are straight up assholes to each other for no reason. I was at a bar, and sometimes people might recognize me from the videos and stuff, which is very cool. And this dude came up to me, and he was just like, it's Luke, yeah? And I was like, oh, yeah. And he goes, the comedian. And I was like, oh, yeah. And he goes, man, I've seen some of your videos. I was like, oh, cool. Thanks, man. He's like, I don't like you. And I was like, oh, cool. He's like, yeah, I thought it'd be weird if I didn't mention it. Anyway, have a good night, brother. And just walked away. I was standing there in the corner like, nah, it would have been weird if he didn't bring it up. I'm crying. Guys freak me out, to be honest. Like, it's like funny. It's a bit sad because I'm like one of them. But like, you know, like men. What the fuck is that? Maybe I don't know, men. I just realised in that moment of you're like, Luke, do your impression of a male now. I'd be like, and then run away. And like, does anyone have like a masculine job? Like, or like, you know, like you've got a beard. Are you like a manly dude? No? No, he's scared actually. He's like, oh, not me. What do you do, sir?
I'm a Tyler.
You're a Tyler. Oh, yeah. They're on, yeah, I know what they are. Very familiar with your work, yeah. I've got a bathroom. No, that's the thing, I don't really know what men do, ever. Like, really, I was asking the crowd a few weeks ago at a show, like, what they did as a job. I was like, what are you, mate? And this guy was like, oh, I'm a scaffy. I thought that was a breed of dog. Turns out he's a scaffolder and I'm just a moron. Like, what I lack in masculinity, I make up for in my knowledge of scented candles, you know? That's my vibe. Like, I'm just not a man. Like, I drive auto, you know? That wasn't a joke. But you guys laughed. I said that statement in North Queensland on my tour last year, and one dude just stands up at the back and just goes, oh, you fucking pussy. And it's good to know that toxic masculinity is alive and well still in North Queensland. And I am a proud auto driver. Give us a cheer if you drive auto. Let's go. Give us a cheer if you drive manual. See, there's always less, but there's always so much louder. Just manual drivers, you are the vegans of the car world. You really are. I get bullied by men, to be honest. I read. Oh wait, no, that's the next bit. Can I? I moved too far ahead. I'll do the bullying bit first, and then I'll tell you about my reading. Now I'm just giving you the contents for the show. You're like, oh, a lot to look forward to. This is great. I get bullied by men. This is like true story. 5 years ago, I was walking to university. Okay, it was TAFE, whatever. I was like, no one's going to believe that shit. And I had headphones on, and I was wearing a backpack, minding my own business. And you know when you hold your backpack strap like here, and then you lower it a bit, it's like a comfortable walking position. Then you lower it here, but it rides up at the back. I look like a fucking Pokemon trainer. I was wearing my backpack as a hat. And I don't know if you know this, but that's more than enough ammo for a tradie to rip you to shreds. They don't need much. And I'm minding my own business, and a white Toyota Hilux just slows right down. The windows start rolling down, and I was like, oh no. Now, I'm not a tradie. What a shock. But I'm fairly confident that there must be some kind of preamble that happens in the Hilux before the windows get rolled down. Like, they must be just like, oi. And he's like, yeah. And he puts down his dare. It's my favourite part of the show. Because every night there's always one girlfriend that pokes their boyfriend like, that's you. Chocolate milk is not a substantial breakfast. And they're just like, oi, 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 backpack kid. And the other one's like, this is better than when we drive past the local high school. This is sick, right? Do you remember chatterboxes from primary school? Those little paper origami things, and there's options, and you go on a journey. I reckon tradies have those in the glove box of their car with just 8 fucked insults they could yell at a stranger. And they're just like, oi, pick a colour. He's like, blue. Okay. B, L. Fuck, pick another colour. He's like, just go, man, just go. And this guy just leans his whole torso out the car and he's like, oi! And I was like, yeah! And I watched this dude's brain just melt as he tried to come up with an insult. I'm looking at him, he's looking at me, and I was like, someone's lost their chatterbox. And he clocks the backpack and I quickly drop it, but it was too late. He'd seen it and the insult started concocting. I could see it being mixed in there. The brain cell was pinging back and forth. And then he just goes, nice backpack, fuckhead. And I was like, damn, that was pretty good, actually. And then he followed up with a question, and this really threw me off. He's like, why are you wearing that? And I went, huh? That's my first mistake. Because you're probably thinking, Luke, you don't owe this man an answer. Just walk away. I'm a people pleaser, okay? And a couple of things you need to know. Firstly, I just started doing comedy at the time. I really pride myself, particularly then, on being quick-witted enough to come back with a clever retort in a high-pressure scenario like this. The second thing is, I panicked. This is one of my biggest regrets, and I want you to know that before I say it. I'm aware of it. I was like, he's like, why are you wearing that? And I came out way too hard. I was like, why? And he goes, yeah, why? And I was like, because I wanted to pack my lunch. I froze, and he's like, what? And I was like, fuck! I think about that every morning. But I'm a modern man, right? As I may have mentioned earlier, accidentally. I read. Does anyone read? Any readers in? Oh, hell yeah. Oh, what do you read, mate?
I like to read my novels and Harry Potter.
Your novels and Harry Potter. I've got news for you, mate. Harry Potter is one of your novels. Wait, do you write your own novels?
No, yeah, I try to write.
Oh, you write your own. Sorry, I was being a smartass. You're way more intelligent than me. Except for that first part where you said you were a drug dealer. That wasn't the smartest, but... Pardon? No, I believe you. I know you're fucking joking, man. There's no drug dealer that would ever be like, yeah, that's me. Yeah, great. Yeah, anyone else read?
We read fantasy. We're actually in a book club together.
You're in a book club. Let's go. Ultimate readers. Oh, that's great. What was the last book you read?
It was a really messed up short story book, actually.
Messed up short story, like murder.
Mostly talk about, anal.
Anal? Yeah, great. Fun club. Are you sure you didn't just go to an orgy and read? That sounds intense. I'm more of a Captain Underpants man, to be honest. But game respects game. I like that's good. I was reading a lot during lockdown, and everything was about the pandemic. I think we all got sick of it. And by the way, I read a lot of highbrow intellectual stuff, as you might already be able to tell. I'm quite a sophisticated boy. It was BuzzFeed, whatever. Still an article. Okay, it was a quiz. I'm a Hufflepuff. You don't know my story. But there was this one article that stood out to me. The headline just read, Kim Jong-un, the supreme leader of North Korea, bans skinny jeans in North Korea. I clicked on the article, and the first thing that came up was a picture of Kim Jong-un. I don't know if you've seen a picture of Kimmy Boy lately. Fuck me, big unit. Barrel boy confirmed. Let's get that out of the way. This man is not a dictator, he is a mictator, all right? He's a big boy, and I'm looking at Kim, big boy, and I'm reading the article, ban skinny jeans, and I'm looking at Kim, ban skinny jeans, big, burly, beefy boy, ban skinny jeans. And I was like, that's the most insecure shit I've ever seen in my entire life. Full-grown adult man who has all the power he wants in that country. He woke up one morning, saw someone wearing skinny jeans and was like, if I can't have them, no one can. That's embarrassing. Imagine if I had that much power. I thought about this and I woke up one morning and I just banned big dicks, you know? I was like, if I can't have them, no one can. Hell yeah, a few other white dudes in, small to medium with a respectable girth, all right? A few girls laughing, a lot of dudes real quiet. Like, I came here to laugh, not to be personally attacked. Now, he's a big boy, and I did get a message, by the way, after one of the shows from a girl. She was like, hey, Luke, I really enjoyed the show. I just want you to know that fat shaming is never okay. And I was like, that's not true. Fat shaming is often not okay. But there is a limited amount of topics that you can talk about these days as a comedian, and I'm fairly sure girthy dictators is still on the cards. If we can't make fat jokes about blokes that kill their own people, what are we all doing? That's a bit of fun. Dude, get on board. Although Kim couldn't get on the board, he'd fucking break it, wouldn't he? The only person he doesn't starve in that country is himself, so... No, there's a list online of all his own staff and ministers that Kim has had executed since he came into power in 2011 with reasons why next to the names. One of the reasons next to one of the names was bad posture and fell asleep during meeting. And I called him pudgy. And sometimes people leave the show going, well, Luke, do not hurt his feelings. Fuck him, he's an arsehole. He's a big chubby wubby flubbernaut, right? He looks like a fucking dumpling, dude. You are what you eat, that's why he's a fucking dog. No, sorry. Now, that's not a generalisation. There was a massive meat shortage in North Korea, and this is real. Kim Jong-un forced the poor citizens of North Korea to surrender their pets to restaurants to be used as food. Yeah, and I called him a boomba. They ran out of shepherd's pie and they were like, here's some German shepherd's pie with a side of border cauliflower. Nom, 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 nom. Oh, you're not going to like the next one. You go to North Korean Bunnings on a Saturday morning, sausage, dog and bread, mate. All right. A few of you are like, fuck, he doesn't put this on his TikTok. As you know, we are filming this. I'm going to put it online, and I don't know about this one, to be honest. I'm just terrified I'm going to be going to bed one night, and the last thing I'm going to hear outside my bedroom window is just a rustle in the bushes. And then a dart's just going to go... and you'll never hear from me again. It's not going to be like North Korean spies or anything. It's going to be a bunch of white girls off TikTok like, don't be fat phobic. So pray for me. You've been a great crowd. I appreciate you getting on board this bit. I did do this bit in a place called Bundaberg in North Queensland. It wasn't going as well as it is now. And I got to this point of the joke and one woman just goes, excuse me. And I was like, oh, I wasn't taking questions, but go on. She's like, did you not know that here in Bundaberg, per capita, we have the most obese town in all of Australia? And I was like, even better, fucking relatable then. And they did not love that. Roz from Monsters Inc. was pissed. I'm genuinely shocked at how many people got that reference. She even left, like, with the slug trail behind her. It was her ass sweat, just... Now, the reason why I'm lashing out at Kim Jong-un is because he went on a rampage. Not only did this man ban skinny jeans, in the same week, Kimmy also banned slogan T-shirts, lip rings, and side fringes. This man put my Year 9 personality in a bin. Overnight, no one's talking about it. If 15-year-old Luke had been holidaying in North Korea, I would have been executed on the tarmac listening to Thanks for the Memories. And then he banned one more thing, and this one made me angry as an Australian. This is real. Kim Jong-un banned mullets in North Korea. I didn't even have a mullet and I was offended. Because the first thing I thought of, I was like, what about if there's a poor Australian that lives in North Korea? That would be their right. Americans have the right to bear arms. Australians have the right to bear a bit of a party at the back, mate. And I Googled it. Turns out at the time there was one known Australian that was living in North Korea under an exemption, and they did these little blog posts of what it's like to be an Australian living in North Korea. And when the mullet ban came in, they were pissed. And that's fair enough. That is part of our culture. That is part of our culture. That's like banning Indian dudes from drowning at Bondi Beach wearing three-quarter denim jeans, you know? No, it's like, don't be insensitive. That's part of their culture. And there's 16 seasons of Bondi Rescue to back that shit up. It's on the television. In the summertime, that is where I'll be. And they're like... One of my favourite moments from last year, this Indian guy came up to me after the show and he was just like, bro, Bondi so true. He goes, seriously, my uncle last week, I tell him denim too heavy. It was awesome. And I wanted to know, I was like, why did Kim Jong-un ban mullets? So I kept on reading and there was this press conference that was below the article and the video was translated into English and Kimmy Boy's sitting there, he's got the flags behind him, he's sweating, fucking big unit. And this is real. Kim Jong-un said that he believes that mullets are a symbol of a rich capitalistic lifestyle. Let that one sink in for a bit. It seems from this information that Kim Jong-un may have never been to a capitalist country before. Because if he came to Australia for one day, he would realise very quickly, people with mullets are contributing the least to our economy by far. Mullets are not a sign of a rich capitalistic lifestyle. Mullets are a sign that there's a TAFE nearby. Now, who reckons they have, like, the most interesting job in? I'm on, like, an endless hunt to find the person with the most interesting job in Australia. Oh, yes?
I'm a legal drug dealer.
Well, two very different professions for girls. And I would love to explore them both. You're a legal drug dealer. A pharmacist. Okay, yeah. Yeah, great. And what's your favourite drug? This guy's yelling recommendations. Dexies, trust me, they're good. It's legal speed, you know? Pun? How do I know? Shut the fuck up. If the cops are watching, I'm a plumber. Sorry, what's your favourite kind of drug?
I wouldn't say it's my favourite. It's the weirdest drug I've ever come across.
Yeah.
It's called Cavijet.
Cavijet.
It is an injection you shove in your penis to make it hard.
It's an injection you shove in your penis to make it hard. Oh, so it's not like a penis pump?
No, it's like Viagra in a needle.
Viagra in a needle? It doesn't have to be in a needle. Viagra is for your needle. You don't need to do a double needle.
It's worse when you have to teach someone how to use it.
Is that legal? In the pharmacy, you like duck out the back and all.
We have an instructional video that you sit in so you sit in a console room with the gentleman.
Oh, but it's not a demonstration.
Oh, you have a fake one.
And does it go, I'm sorry for being graphic, I assume it goes in the pee hole, in the dick hole. Oh, does it go in your balls? What are you talking about? It's like inject it. Wait, it goes in the shaft.
In the shaft, yeah.
What? I don't know if I have enough shaft for a needle. You just poke out the other end. It'd look like a T. And you said international model? Yeah, was that it?
Stand up.
Oh, stand up. Mate, you're next to your wife. Can you relax? She's... He's like, don't worry, mate. She was going to fucking look with me. Who have you modelled for? Like, any big brands or companies?
Initially I modeled for Bottega Veneta, which is
Kind of like Versace, like LD Versace. That's great. What is your favourite pose?
I don't know, arms crossed.
Like, do you do like the like the Ben Stiller one, like the blue steel? Is that like like? Is that good? LD Versace calls. I'm like, fuck off. I'm on Versace. All right. Yeah, was that good?
That, but like not quite
That,
that.
but just imagine what you just did then, but like nothing like that, and you're nailing it. Well, great. I'm on my way. I like pubs. They're like probably my favourite places in the world. Because you see stuff at pubs you would never see anywhere else. I saw the best thing I've ever seen in my life at a pub like 2 years ago. Haven't stopped thinking about it since. Best thing I've ever seen. And when I say the thing, some of you might be like, Luke, are you sure that's a good thing? Trust me, it was awesome. Best thing I've ever seen. I saw a baby get dunked in a Jim Beam and Coke. It was awesome. No, it was fine. It giggled, right? It was like, yeah. These dads, they were just passing it around the booth and one of them dropped it and saturated the thing. It was like a bogan baptism. The absent father, the son, and the 30% spirits, you know? It was beautiful. I remember the first time I did that joke about the spirits. There was a 12-year-old in the front row, and it was at an open mic night, and there was like 10 people there, and I did that same joke about the spirits, and the mum quickly whispers into the kid's ear for like 2 seconds tops. She was like, pss, 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 then just went back to the show. And I was like, just 2 seconds, real quick, in and out, 2 seconds tops. And I was like, oh, did you just explain that Jim Beam was a spirit? Because I probably wouldn't have known that when I was 12. And she was like, oh, no. I explained religion. And I was like, holy shit. I think we can all agree that is quite a broad concept to condense into 2 seconds. What did she say? She just leant in and was like, oh, there's a book, it's a whole thing. Yeah. So kind of as a joke, I guess, to the kid, I was like, so what do you reckon, mate? Now do you reckon you understand the inner workings of worship, belief, and conflicting ideologies in every single culture all around the world throughout thousands of years and the construct of a super overarching power? And he was just like, well, yes, you just explained it to me. And I was like, I wish you would have been fucking donked. I was so angry, man. Like, I was forced to do Bible studies for 7 years in primary school. I could have just gone to an open mic night with my mum. That's bullshit. I'm not religious, personally, but it's cool if you are. I'm busy on Sundays. It's not for me. I usually repent for my sins with a Panadol the next morning. But I grew up around a lot of religious people, like my whole childhood, a lot of Christians, and some of the best people I've ever met, a lot of family friends. And when I was a kid, our family used to hang out with theirs, but we were the only family that wasn't religious at all. So the other kids just couldn't fathom that I wasn't religious. They'd come up to me and be like, wait, so you've never read the Bible? And I'd have to stand there and be like, oh, I'll probably just catch the film when it comes out. Did that with Harry Potter, it was fine. And I did what any kid asks, to try and make friends, because we didn't have much in common. I was like, do you like Harry Potter? And I didn't know at the time that Christianity sometimes condemns magic. And this kid got really defensive, and he was like, Harry Potter? Nah. Harry Potter's a bit unrealistic. And I was like, well, yeah, it's fiction. Like another book you fucking love. And then during this discussion, I heard one of the greatest comebacks / statements I've ever heard. He just goes, oh, whatever. The Bible is a way better book than Harry Potter. And I was like, you've chosen war. And he goes, what do you mean? You're not impressed by water into wine? I was like, has your teacher ever turned into a fucking cat? There's a whole class about it. In Jerusalem, that was a miracle. In Hogwarts, that's a Wednesday morning. He's like, oh, well, Jesus walked on water. I'm like, your main character walks? Man, try a flying broomstick with 0 safety precautions. Just one class at the start of year 7 where everyone weirdly yells at their broomstick like it's a limp cock after 5 whiskeys. Just up, up, up. I feel like I've just ruined the Philosopher's Stone for a large majority of you. It's like, dude, your hero wears sandals. Mine rides a Nimbus 2000. Grow up. I met a man once. I know, thank you. Thank you so much. Yep, I have. I met a man, I was in a pub, that's where they are. And I was sitting there and he had a powerful name. Now, I don't know if you've ever heard a powerful name in the wild, but this guy had a name so powerful that when he said it, everyone who heard it stopped what they were doing and just turned around. And this guy walks up to me, 70 years old, taps me on the shoulder and goes, "G'day, mate, the name's Jungle." I know. I was like, ooh, what a powerful name. And I was like, dude, if you wrote an autobiography to be called The Jungle Book, pick up the pen. And I was like, I got to know, mate, why do they call you Jungle? And he got so excited. He's like, why do they call me Jungle? There's only 2 reasons why anyone would ever be called Jungle, mate. And I was like, God, I'd love to know them. And he was like, they've either fought in the Vietnam War or they've got really hairy balls. And both of those apply to me, mate. And instantly I was in awe of this man. I've never fought in a war or hit puberty, so I was like, this man's a weapon. I invited him to sit at our table because I've always been very fascinated with war ever since I was a kid. And we ended up going pint for 5 hours on a Tuesday night. And he's sharing some of the craziest stories I've ever heard about the war. And at the end, he tells me one story that I'll never forget. Jungle had a best friend named Jim. Jungle Jim. And I was like, ooh, I like that. And before they went to war, they made a pact with each other that they wouldn't go home from Vietnam without the other, which is very sweet. They went off to war. A few months in, Jim got sent out on a mission to fix a wire just outside their base, which was surrounded by enemies, the Viet Cong, who they were fighting. And they're all peering over the bunker, watching Jim crawl out. He gets out to the wire and his arm snaps a branch. It makes a really loud noise, and they hear talking in the tree line, and it's the Viet Cong. And the Viet Cong threw a grenade over to where they heard the noise, and Jungle very graphically described watching his best friend's leg get completely blown off and land 10 meters away on the other side of the battlefield. And I was sitting there at the pub in shock and in disbelief, and Jungle just goes, so at this point I was thinking, fuck. Rough start. And I was like, oh, yeah. He goes, but here's the thing about my best mate, Jim. He's a tough bugger. I knew that grenade wouldn't have fazed him. Now, I don't know Jim, but I'm fairly confident that if you got your entire leg blown off and you were sitting there in the mud bleeding out with one less limb than you just had, you wouldn't be like, I'm relatively unfazed by this. But again, I don't know Jim. And Jungle goes, trust me, mate, he's survived much worse. And I was like, that is objectively not true. And straight away, Jungle walked up to his superior officers. He explained the situation about the pact and that he wasn't gone home from Vietnam without Jim. And he suggested a rescue mission, and they pretty much told him, no way. They were like, no one could survive that. Even if he did, he'd be bleeding out. We're sorry, Jungle. No one's to go out there. That's an order. And I went, what do you do? Well, like, what'd you do? And he goes, well, I wouldn't have been able to live with myself if I didn't at least try and save my best friend's life. So he goes, I decided to go out there against orders by myself. And he goes, before I left the trench, I thought to myself one thing. I thought, Jungle, you're not coming back with 75% of Jim. So I went for the leg first, mate. And I was like, why? It's not a finger. You can't put it on ice. He's like, I know that now. He goes, it was the 60s. It was a different time. And he commander crawls out by himself, gets the leg, and he goes, mate, legs are surprisingly heavy. And I was like, mate, imagine Kim Jong-un's. Be grateful. And he made his way across to Jim with the leg, and he gets halfway, and he does the same thing, snaps a branch, makes a really loud noise, and a bloke from the Viet Cong popped out of a tunnel and shot at Jungle from about 20 meters away. And he goes, but I'm smart, mate, so I ducked. I was like, what a fucking genius. You're quite the problem solver, aren't you, Jungle? And he goes, it nicked me right here. And he pulls up his hairline. This man doesn't have a scar. This man has a dent in the side of his face. And I was like, oh, like it's a panel beating job. And I was like, you got shot in the head. And he goes, no, mate, it nicked me. And I was like, Jungle, you definitely got shot in the head. And he goes, no, mate, it nicked me. And I was like, that's so hot. And I interrupted him straight away. I just straight up said, I was like, I think you're the bravest person I've ever met. And he goes, oh, why would you say that? And I was like, because you risked your own life to try and save your best friends without even thinking twice. And he goes, oh, I like to think everyone would do that for their best friend. I was like, you don't know me very well. If my best friend in the world was out there and I was like, are we going to go on a rescue mission? And they were like, no one could survive that. I'd be like, yeah, he's a weak dog, fuck him. But Jungle did. And he made his way over towards Jim, and sure enough, Jungle was right. He was still alive. Barely conscious, but still breathing and still with it. And I was like, how'd you get him back? And he goes, well, it seemed too far away, so I did it bit by bit. They'd shoot. I'm smart, so I ducked. Then they'd reload, and as they'd reload, I'd drag Jim and then back for the leg. Drag Jim, back for the leg. And I'm sitting there like, oh my God, ditch the leg. You know when someone's telling a story and you're like, you're doing it all wrong? He goes, what kind of a friend would I be if I left a quarter of Jim in Vietnam? 75% is a pass in high school, mate. It's a great result. Just take the win. And he goes, it was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. And I was like, I can't even imagine. You know, imagine that. You're being shot at. You're in the mud. You're getting rained on. You know, in my head, I'm like, being shot at. I'm like, oh, it's raining. No, that's unfortunate. And he goes, oh, no. Mate, it wasn't tough because of those reasons. It was tough because I was just laughing so much the whole time. And I start to think, I think Jungle might be a psychopath. And then he goes, no, I didn't explain this earlier. Not only is Jim a tough bugger, but he's also got a great sense of humour, mate. He goes, even in his darkest moments, he'd always make me laugh like no one else ever could. I was like, oh my God, that's so sweet. What did he say? And he goes, we got halfway back, and he said that they got behind this log, and that like their boys started giving them cover fire, so the Viet Cong stopped shooting, and Jim was in his arms, Jungle was catching his breath, and Jim looks up at him and goes, Jungle, if we make it out of this alive, we're going to go to the pub. Jungle's like, why? And he goes, because then we can both be fucking legless, brother. I had it in the shackers, but still, you know. I like to imagine he was just that unfazed. So good. And I got really invested in the story, so I just was like, so what happened? Did you make it back? And he started to get a bit emotional, and he's like, oh, yeah, on the way back, Jim got shot. And I was like, oh my God. And he goes, in his bad leg, fucking idiots. It's like, they got him in the stump, mate, and Jim let him know about it too. And I was like, what do you mean? He heckled the enemy. He's like, yeah, pretty much. Which is so Australian. Not only were we fighting them physically, but just verbally as well. I like to imagine Jim was trying to come up with a sweet insult, and he's like, wait. Pick a colour. And you just hear from the tree line, blue. And he's like, nice shot, fuckhead. Get us out of here, Jungle, let's go. And I got really fixated on the getting shot thing. I don't know why. I had a few drinks, and Jungle kept trying to move on with the story, and I was like, oh, you must have been in so much pain because of the bullet. And he goes, yeah, he was in a lot of pain. I was like, no, because the bullet, I can't even imagine getting shot. I was like, I think I'd cry if I got shot. And Jungle goes, you would definitely cry if you got shot. And I was like, yeah. And I wouldn't let him move on. I was like, so much pain. He goes, mate, he took a grenade. I'm pretty sure he can take a fucking bullet. And I was like, oh, yeah. You probably know what a scaffy is too. And towards the end of the story, Jungle started to get a bit emotional, and he explained that they got Jim back to the trench. They rushed him off to the med bay, and he started to tear up. And I was like, I'm so sorry, you don't have to keep talking about this. It must be really hard. And he's like, no, I actually don't mind talking about it. He just said that he was getting emotional because he'd only processed this for the first time a couple of weeks before we met. And I was like, what do you mean? I was like, what happened a couple of weeks ago? And he goes, oh, well, Jim ended up going home from the war. He had kids, he has grandkids. And a couple of weeks ago, I had the opportunity to walk Jim's grandkids to school, like to help him walk his grandkids to school for the very first time because, Jim's not very good at walking anymore. An absolute low blow there from Jungle, but I did giggle a bit. And he goes, as we dropped Jim's granddaughter off to school, she looked back at us and smiled. And I will admit, mate, I shed one tear and I thought, good. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? And he goes, oh, well, in that moment, as she smiled, I realised that I'd played a minor role in that in the sense that I'd saved her grandfather's life. So I processed that with one tear and thought, good. And in that moment, I realised I was watching a 70-year-old man describe his first ever emotion. This guy's repressed this for 50 years, and all it took was a smiling child with a big backpack, and he's like, fuck, one tear, good, like a man. He'll never think about it again. And while I was slightly amused by that, I did realise in that moment as well, it was a bit sad. I kind of realised that no one ever told Jungle how incredible this story was, just by the way he was downplaying it. And I knew it wasn't my place, and I was like, I think I got to say, I was like, Jungle, that's the most honourable thing a human being can do, is risk your own life to save another person's and get shot in the head while doing it. And he goes, mate, it nicked me. I was like, it doesn't matter. Jim's family and friends and Jim must be eternally grateful for you. You should be incredibly proud of yourself. And he stood up out of his chair and he was like, oh, no one's ever said that to me before. And he gave me a really big hug. And then I started to get emotional. And now it's just two guys just crying in the pub. And then we sit back down into our chairs and it's completely silent. I didn't know what to say. And Jungle just goes, oh, I've been talking about myself a lot tonight, mate. What do you do? And I was like, oh, I'm a comedian? And I thought he wasn't going to respect me. He goes, a comedian? Mate, there is no one I respect more than stand-up comedians. I was like, are you sure? He goes, yeah, mate, I think you have the bravest job in the world. I was like, Jungle, you've been severely misinformed. And he goes, I don't care what you say, it must take an awful lot of courage to get up there. And I was just thinking, like, you know what takes an awful lot of courage? Risking your own life to save your best friends. And he goes, oh, come off it, mate, I've had it easy. And I was like, fuck you. If you've had it easy, what is my entire existence up until now? And he was a very humble old guy, but I made it my mission to at least get him to admit that he's had a very challenging life and he's done incredible to overcome it. And I was like, all right, correct me if I'm wrong. You told me earlier that you spent your entire 21st birthday in a freezing cold trench being ambushed by the Viet Cong. And he goes, yeah. And I lost a toe. And I was like, exactly. So you would be able to agree that your life has been much more difficult than mine. And he goes, right. Yeah. And he really weighed it up. And then he just goes, yeah, but fuck public speaking. Hey, mate. And I was like, no, you're right. I'm a hero. How do I do it? And then we started talking about my comedy and he seemed super interested in it, just as interested in my life as I was with his. And he goes, well, what's your next show going to be about? And I hadn't started writing the show yet. And I was like, I don't know. And he goes, well, mate, if you don't know what your show's going to be about, maybe you could mention me quickly in one of your routines. And I was like, oh, I'd love to. And he goes, but I don't think I've given you enough material. And I was like, your name's Jungle. That's more than enough. And he goes, well, maybe you could compare our lives or something. Perhaps from our chat this evening, it seems we've both lived quite different lives. What an astute observation there from Jungle. And he's right. When he was 21, he was fighting for his country overseas in a war. When I was 21, one time I put deep heat on my asshole and I cried. For 2 hours. I was with my friends. That doesn't make it better, actually. One of them put it on their arm, the other one put it on their balls, and I'm competitive. And I don't like to talk about it. That's my Vietnam. But I did that stupid thing that you do in social situations where, you know when someone tells you like a crazy story at like a party and you feel that social pressure to kind of come back with something crazy you've done so they respect you? The problem was Jungle's been telling me true war stories for 5 hours where he's the main character, and I was sitting there all night like, oh, what's the craziest thing I've ever done? It gets to the very end and I just blurt out, one time I put deep heat on my hole and I cried. And I was like, oh my God, Luke, why did you say that? And Jungle just goes, oh, mate, that's fucked. And he has a real slow drink of his beer, and then he puts it down, and he's like, even Jim would have been fazed by that, mate. And I wrote that down in the notes of my phone. I was like, talk about Jungle in your show. And I do this all the time when I get on the beers. Does anyone do this when they drink? And you write down stuff in the notes of your phone, and then you wake up the next morning and you're like, who am I? And why don't I need a cauliflower at 3 a.m? You know? Hell yeah. 3 people. So, cut a long story short, I was going through writing this year's show, and I thought, there's some late night entries in here that I think have merit and deserve to be in the show. If it's okay with you all, I would like to share my favourite drunk thoughts of the last year and a half with you all tonight. Luke's drunk thoughts. 9 p.m. 2 stick insects fucking is a fire hazard. Tell me I'm wrong. You see him going out on a branch, you're like, whoa, get a room. I'm like, no, get him a fire blanket. 11:14 p.m. Hospitals have the ability to perform incredible life-saving brain surgeries, organ transplants, and the miracle of childbirth. But they still haven't invented a robe that covers someone's entire asshole. What are we doing? 12:20 a.m. Guys' dicks always flop to one side. What's up with that? I think I need a neck pillow for my cock. It's not really a joke, it's just way too personal. I'm a lefty, so... Yeah, I'm a lefty. I got that North Korean dick, because they have no rights. 1:47 a.m. Shit never said by people who practice Buddhism. YOLO. Because they don't only live once. Reincarnation. All right. That joke died. That's right. It'll come back as a new one. 3:06 a.m. Do you reckon Vin Diesel's son is called Vin Unleaded? Maybe, probably not. That's not how surnames work. 4:02 a.m. This is the final drunk thought. And just for a little bit of context, it's a 2-part thought, and I wrote this down after I'd been in quite an intense argument with a plant. Plants are dumb as fuck, man. Ooh, I like water and sun. Cool, get a personality. That's part 1. Part 2, I did have to stop doing this one at some of the shows on my tour last year, just because some people didn't love the punchline. But look, we're in Brisbane now, and just judging from some of the shit you guys have laughed at this evening, loose units. So, would you like to hear the second part of the thing? Okay. Don't turn on me now. People regard plants too highly. They do fuck all. Everyone's always like, every living thing should be treated with the same level of respect. I highly disagree. Plants have the same level of function as people that we're legally allowed to euthanize. And some of them are vegetables. So I think the moral of the story is go to bed. You guys have been a great crowd. I really appreciate you coming out, Brisbane. I want to say before I end the show, thank you so much for everyone here who watches my videos and everyone at home as well. I really appreciate it. The last year and a half with all the videos and stuff going well has changed my life. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Hope you've had a great night. Thank you. You're all very kind. Thank you. So I'm at the pub with Jungle. And we're outside on the veranda. We just, they're like, get out, right? And I go to say goodbye, and I'll never forget this last part, right? And he said something very sweet. He was like, oh, mate, before you go, I was like, Jungle, it's been a pleasure. And he goes, oh, I just wanted to say this has been one of the best nights out I've had in a very long time. He's like, having a beer with you made me feel young again, and I think I needed that. And I started to get emotional again. I was like, oh my God, this guy's poured his heart out to me. I've enjoyed it. Like, it's been one of the best nights I've ever had. And to get to share it with like someone, I'll never forget him for the rest of my life. There's no way. And I gave him a big hug, and we had a really nice moment. And I should have ended the night there. But then he set me up for a ripper joke, and I don't know if you can tell from this evening, but I have zero to no impulse control. And do I regret it? No. Well, maybe. No. But would I say it again? Probably not. But it crushed to the one person that it needed to, and that was Jungle. I've never seen anyone laugh at a joke this hard before in my entire life. I thought he was going to have a heart attack. I go to get in a taxi, and I go, Jungle, it's been a pleasure. And it just started to rain. And he goes, Luke, wait. And I get out of the taxi, and I'm standing there in the rain like I'm wearing a white T-shirt. My nipples are showing. And I was like, oh my God, I should kiss him. And I was like, what? And he goes, oh, never mind. And I was like, well, you have to say it now. And he goes, nah, it might make you feel uncomfortable. And I was like, we may never see each other again. Just say it. And he was like, oh, okay. I think it's one of the reasons why I approached you earlier. He's like, I saw you having fun. And look, he goes, you're at the peak of your life, mate. But most importantly, you can laugh at yourself. And I think you have a great sense of humour. He's like, you remind me a lot like my best friend, Jim. And I was like, well, I've got two fucking legs, mate. And I get out of the taxi and I start doing this. And then Jungle starts doing it back. He's like, suck shit, Jim. I start dying laughing. And then he goes, oh, mate, would you mind if I told Jim that joke? I was like, under no circumstances can you tell him that joke. And he goes, mate, he took a bullet and a grenade. I'm pretty sure it can take a fucking joke. Thanks for coming out, legends. I appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you so much. Hi, it's me again. Thanks for coming. Hey, do you mind if we get a photo with you all this evening? Just, because I appreciate you all coming out. So just, this guy's like, fuck, blur up my face. I wanted to film a post-credit scene, which is not common in comedy specials, but fuck it, I'm going to do what I want. I think we'd all agree, it's been a fun show, but I think we'd all agree that there hasn't been enough jokes about Kim Jong-un in the show this evening. So I went out for dinner one night, and me and my girlfriend wrote a bunch of fat jokes about Kim Jong-un. I hope you guys enjoy them. And remember, he kills people, and these are just words. So, the entire sport of basketball was banned in North Korea until Kim Jong-un came into power. Then they finally had a ball to use. Got him. You know those ants that can lift 100 times their weight? That's like Kim Jong-un's feet. It was reported that Kim Jong-un was so overweight at one point that he broke both of his ankles. That's not even a joke. It's just a really funny thing that happened. Even his ankles were like, fuck this. It was also reported that Kim Jong-un loves Disney. He took Elsa way too literally and let himself go. You can tell he really does love Frozen pizza. He does love Disney. That's why he has his own gravitational pull. He wanted to be a whole new world. Apparently, he really loved 101 Dalmatians. He probably just thought it was a menu, though. And the final one, you've been a great crowd. Kim Jong-un thinks he's a role model. Come on, man, you've had way too many roles to be a model. Thanks for coming out, legends. Have a great night. I appreciate it.